Hello everybody, today I'm going to be showing you how to make some fruit segments in the case of oranges and lemons. And as you can see, I made a little orange segment here, and these are wonderful little projects for using up yarn scraps and they create a bit of fun. So let's begin. So we're going to be using just some, it doesn't matter what yarn you use. I'm using a DK light worsted weight yarn though, and this time I'm going to be using a yellow and a white to make a lemon piece instead of orange and white for orange. And I'm going to be using a 3.5mm crochet e-hook, and it's always good to have a pair of scissors and a yarn needle as well. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take your coloured piece of yarn, so either your orange or your yellow, depending on whether you're making oranges or lemons. And we need to work 5 single crochet into a magic circle. Now, if you're familiar with doing your magic circle, you might want to skip ahead and just work your 5 single crochet. But I'm going to try and go slower for those beginners out there. So the first thing to do is we take the beginning piece of our yarn and we just dangle it in front of our hand, nice and easy like that. And then we wrap the yarn around our 2 fingers like so, and we cross over at the top, and we use these 2 fingers to hold it into place. Then what we do is we put our hook underneath the first piece of yarn, and then twisting our hook round, we just grab that bit that's going over the top and pull it through. Then what we need to do is we twist our hook up, and this creates a little almost figure of 8 loop. And keep it fairly loose, you don't want it too tight. And then once we've done that, you can just hold on to that if you want to. We can just put our hook underneath our yarn we're working with, and then twist your hook round. And this, when I do this, I actually move my hands round like this, because it creates more, it keeps that loop in place more. So grab the yarn, and then moving your hand round rather than the hook, just move the hook down and pop it through like so. And this creates a little dummy stitch which helps us get started on our magic circle, something unique to Happy Berry, but I find it really helps. So I'm going to show you that again. So we dangle the beginning piece of our yarn in front of our hands, and we wrap it round our 2 fingers, and then we cross it over at the top. Then we use these 2 fingers to hold it into place. And we put our hook underneath the first bit of yarn and twist our hook round to grab that bit that's going over the top, then pull it through. Then we need to twist our hook up so it creates that little figure of 8 loop. Again, keeping it loose. We're just holding that. Put our hook underneath the yarn we're working with again. Then I twist my hand, my left hand. I twist that, and then moving my hook down to come through the little loop. It should just pop through like so. And now we're working our magic circle. And what we need to do now is work our 5 single crochet. So to do that, still holding on to our loop, we put our hook through the loop, just go straight through that loop. And we're going to grab the yarn we're working with again. I'm still holding it into place here, because I find that helps just keep things under control a bit. So I put a hook through the loop, grab that yarn, and then again moving my hands around, I'll just bring it through the loop like so, and then come back round, moving the left hand, grab the yarn, and then bring it through both loops to do your single crochet. And then that's going to be our first single crochet. So I'll show you again. Put our hook through the loop, twist our left hand so we can see what's going on at the top, grab the yarn, twist the hand again, just bring that yarn through the loop, and just, you can use your finger to hold the stitches in place, because you want to make sure they stay to the left of that first stitch that you made. It's important to make sure that that bit of yarn you've just brought through, as you can see there, stays to the left of that stitch. and then we twist our hands back round to grab the yarn again. So I'm always twisting my hand when I want to grab that yarn. Then when I want to work the stitch, I twist the hand back round again, and then I just bring that through both loops to do our single crochet. Here's our second one. So we do our third, we go back through the loop, and I want to grab the yarn, so I move my left hand, move it down, move the left hand, bring it through, making sure that new bit of yarn is to the left of our stitches. Twist my left hand, so I hold it in place as well. My left hand, so I'm always doing this wrist action with my left hand, and then do my single crochet. There's the third. So I go back through, twist the left hand, grab the yarn, bring the yarn through, make sure it's to the left of our stitches, hold it in place with your fingers, twist the left hand, grab more yarn, twist the left hand, bring it through. And we need to do one more. So we put our hook through the hole for the loop, twist hand, grab yarn, twist hand again to bring it through, make sure it's to the left, hold it in place, twist the hand so we can grab our yarn, twist the hand so we can work our stitch. And there we go. And now we've done 5, not including our dummy stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can let go and pull that tail end to finish our 5 single crochet into a magic loop. Okay, so now we can work on the next row. Okay, so what we want to do now is we're going to chain 1, just like that, just putting it through, and then we're going to turn our works because we want to work back in this opposite direction. And what we're going to do is we're going to work 1 single crochet in that very first stitch. If you can see that very first stitch there on the back, we're going to put our hook through there, and it should go through two bits of yarn there. See, there's 1, there's 2, it should go through there. I'm just going to grab our yarn. I'm always twisting my hook down when I bring it through a stitch. Bring that through, then we're going to work yarn over, holding my yarn in my hand, just to keep a bit of tightness, and do our single crochet, just the 1. And in the next stitch, as you can see that little dark hole there, put our hook in there, and again making sure you're going through 2 bits of yarn, 1 and 2, and just grab our yarn, bring it down and through, and do another single crochet. I'm going to do 2 in there, so we're going to put our hook back into the same stitch we've just been in, grab our yarn, bring it through again, so 2 loops, and yarn over and do your single crochet. So you've got 2 single crochet in that second stitch, and in the next stitch, our third one, we're going to put our hook in there. You want to make sure you've got 2 bits of yarn over the top of your hook, and just twist your hook, twist your hook round and down to bring it through your stitch, and then we're just going to do yarn over and do 1 single crochet in there by itself. And in our 4th stitch along, we're going to do 2 single crochet. So we put our hook through there, and then yarn over, bring it through and do a single crochet, and put your hook back into the same stitch because we want to do 2. Bring that through and do another single crochet. So you've got 2 single crochet in that 4th stitch. And the very last stitch, which is always slightly harder to get into, you just need to make sure, so I just need to make sure we're going through 2 bits of yarn. There we go. You've always got to make sure you've got those 2 bits of yarn above your hook. Let's bring the yarn through, and then a yarn over, put it through both loops to do just 1 single crochet. And that completes our 2nd row. And now we move on to our 3rd row. And it's the same thing again, we just chain one, so we just grab our yarn and bring it through our loop. Let's do our chain one, and then flip your work over so we can start working in the opposite direction. And our stitches now are going to be these little holes at the top here. So putting your hook into that first hole there, again making sure to catch those, make sure there's 2 bits of yarn over the top of your hook. Twist your hook down and through, and yarn over, pull through both loops to do just 1 single crochet. Then the next stitch we're going to do just 1 single crochet as well. Like so. Then in the next stitch, so you can see I'm working through these holes at the top there, so don't go down there, you want to stay at the top. Then in the next stitch, bring our yarn through and do a single crochet, but we're going to do another stitch, so go back into the same stitch and do another single crochet. So you've got 2 single crochet in that third stitch. So you do 1 single crochet by itself, 1 single crochet by itself, and then 2 single crochet in that stitch there. And in the next stitch, we're just going to do 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch we're going to do 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch we're going to do 2 single crochet. So 1, and go back into the same stitch and do 2 single crochet. And that should leave you with 1 stitch. And what I do when they're a bit hard to get your hook through, I just place the hook into the position where it needs to go, and then I just use my nail to bring the yarn, help the hook through, make sure we've got those 2 bits of yarn above our hook. Bring our hook yarn through, and then just do 1 single crochet like that. Okay, so you should have done 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then 1 single crochet. Okay, so by the end of that round or row you should have 9 stitches, so you're going up by 2 each time, because the last row you should have had 7. And then for the 4th row we're just going to do the same again. We're just going to chain 1, so we just grab, I'm always holding my yarn in my hand just to keep it a little bit tight and just feeding it through gently. So I just wrap the yarn over my hook and twist my hook down as I come through the stitch and do a chain 1. Then we flip our work over so we can start working in the opposite direction again. And in that first stitch there, you can see that one there right on the end, we're going to do a single crochet just like before. Then in the next stitch we're going to do a single crochet. Just grab the yarn, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and in the next stitch we're going to do just 1 single crochet as well. But in the next stitch we're going to do 2 single crochet. So we do our first single crochet, and then we put our hook back into the same stitch and do another one, another single crochet, so we've got 2 in there. And in the next stitch we just do 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet, then in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet. But in the next stitch, the second to last stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochet. We go in there and do our first single crochet, and then we put our hook back into the same stitch, grab our yarn and do another single crochet, so you've got 2 in there. And the very last stitch is always a little bit hard to get our hook through. I just place my hook into position and use my nail to bring it through like so, and twist our hook round, down, bring the yarn through and up, yarn over, pull through both loops to do your last single crochet. And you should have increased by 2 again, so you should now have 11 stitches. And what we're going to do now is, sorry my table's so creaky, what we're going to do now is we're going to work on the white, adding the white now. And we're going to introduce our white in our chain 1, so instead of yarning over with the white to pull through to do a chain 1, we're going to get our white yarn like this, and we're just going to hook, making sure the tail end is that side. We're just going to hook it over like that, and I'm going to hold it with my fingers like so, and then I'm just going to pull that through my yellow loop. So we're now working with the white, and then you just pull your yellow yarn so it tightens the stitch. And then we just do the same as we did before. We turn our work so we can see our stitches in the opposite direction, and then in our first stitch, which is there, we put our hook in and pull the yarn through, then do 1 single crochet like so. And don't worry about it if it's loose like that, because all you need to do is pull your white tail end, and that tightens that in nicely. So we've done our 1 single crochet in there in our white. Then in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet. Then in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet, and then in the next stitch we do 1 single crochet. And you can see I'm always twisting my hook down when I want to grab the yarn, and as I come for the stitch I then twist the hook so it's facing upwards again. So the movement helps in crocheting, I feel. So we've done 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, so that's in the first 4. And in the next stitch you want to do 2 single crochet. So we do 1, and then we go back into the same stitch and do our second single crochet. So we've got 2 in there. And then in the next 4 we're just doing 1 single crochet again. So we do 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then in that second to last stitch we're going to do 2 single crochet. So we do our first one, and then we go back into the same stitch and do another one like so. In that last one I just place my hook into position. If it's a bit tight, just use my nail to make sure we get those 2 bits of yarn above our hook, and then work our last single crochet. So it should look a little something like that. Now we need to bring back our yellows. So if you haven't fastened off your yellow already, now's the time to do so. And you can also fasten off your white as well so it doesn't get tangled. And what we need to do is what we did before when we changed to the white, we now need to change to our yellow. So with our yellow again, making sure the tail end is at the top, I suppose. I'm just going to place that over our hook, make sure our stitch is there, and just holding that into position. So again, I'm taking that in those fingers there just to keep it tight, and using these fingers just to hold it. I'm going to hook it through my white loop, then I'm just going to pull the white yarn to tighten that. You can pull the yellow one down a bit as well if it gets a bit short. And again we flip over and start working in these stitches again. So going into that first stitch there, we're going to do 1 single crochet, and like before it's probably going to be loose, so you just take your yellow tail end and just pull it down, and then that tightens that into place. And when you sew in all your tail ends, it will all become more secure as well. And yeah, so we've done our first single crochet, then a 1 single crochet in the next stitch, then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. As you can see, I'm working into these top stitches now. And 1 single crochet, again making sure there's 2 bits of yarn, 1 and 2 above our hook. So 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So you should have done 1 single crochet in the first 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to do 2 single crochet in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5 again. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then that should leave you 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and that's second to last one there. Going to work 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and then the last one, it's a little bit tight to find, I just place my hook in the general direction of where that stitch should be, and then just hook, use my nail to push it through. You should still have the 1, 2 bits of yarn above your hook, and bring that through, and we do our last stitch, and then we're done. Almost done with the crocheting anyway. Then we just cut our yarn, and all you need to do is just pull through, and that sort of knots it into place. So there we go, there's our almost completed lemon piece. So all we need to do is tie in all these tail ends, and then we can work on the little bits of sewing just to add extra effect. So we need to get our yarn needle, and when I tie in my ends, sew my ends, I just, using a yarn needle, thread it on, and I basically just come in from the back into the yellow, doesn't really matter where, just to knot that into place, and then I just work my needle for the same coloured yarn as the tail end. So if you've got a yellow tail end, work it through the yellow yarn obviously, and just work it through a few stitches. As neatly as you can. I'm sure you can do a neater job than I. Then come back in the opposite direction, just threading it through, not pulling too tightly so it doesn't distort the shape, and then just trim the excess like so. There we go, and that's hidden nicely in your project. So I'm going to do the same for all these other tail ends, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, so once you've tied in all your tail ends the same way as that first one I showed you, then we just need to get some white yarn, and taking a shortish length of yarn, just cut it and get our yarn needle and thread it on. I'm just going to do a little bit of sewing. And what we're going to do is going to be working through that centre hole of our magic circle. So just coming from the back, if you have a preference for which side, because they're going to end up identical anyway. But coming from the back, through that centre of your magic circle, it's going to bring our yarn through. We'll leave a little end for sewing in afterwards. Then we're going to just sew all the way over to the edge of our white there, just slightly in from the yellow. Just like that. Don't pull too tightly because you don't want to distort your little segment. And then come back through the centre of your magic circle again. Move your tail in that way. There we go. So it looks something like that, a little bit like that on the back as well. And then we're just going to go over by a few degrees, again to the edge of our white. I'm losing my voice. Just sew through. Again, not putting too tightly. And then just come through the centre of your magic circle again. Just make sure that your tail end is not getting twisted into your project in the process. Try and keep that out of the way. And then we're going to go straight over 90 degrees to the edge of the white and bring that through. Like so. And then come up through that centre of your magic circle again. Like so. And then over by a few more degrees. So you're dividing it up into a few segments. And then back through the centre again. Okay, make sure that tail end is not getting twisted up into it. Keep that out of the way. Okay. And lastly, we're just coming straight down over here. And then all we do is we come up through that centre hole again. It's good. Tail end is so annoying. There we go. So it looks a little something like that. I'm sure you can do a neater, more equal job than I. And what we're going to do then is I'm just going to secure this into place by coming through that centre hole just a few times from the back. So it's coming round. Just coming from the back each time. It will wrap around the edge a little bit, but that just creates more of a pith effect. Like so. And then all we're going to do then is we're just going to just sew back down, slightly over, so you're not going back on yourself. So you go onto the back or your least favourite side. And then you just got to hide these tail ends. So all I do is I just sew it through those bits of sewing I've just done a few times, just to secure it into place. Trim the excess. And then you've got your beginning piece as well, so you want to hide that as well. So just thread that on, and again just sew from the back just once, and then through your bit of a knot you got there now, neatly as you can. Like I said, you'll have more time than me, so do a neater job. Trim the excess, and then you're done. And there's our little lemon segment to go with our orange segment. So I hope you enjoyed that little quick tutorial, and I hope you managed to follow along. It's actually quite difficult to do videos for absolute beginners when you're not a beginner yourself. It's surprisingly difficult because you forget when you first learn to crochet what you found hard, and so I really do hope you've managed to follow along. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below, or you can pop by my Facebook page at facebook.com/happybowcrochet, and I shall see you next Friday for some more crochet fun, and maybe I'll design a little kiwi or something as well, so that'll be fun. Okay, thanks for watching guys, see you soon, bye!